I want to bring in Evan Gershkovich's colleague and the associate editor at the Wall Street Journal, Paul Beckett. Paul, first of all, I can hardly imagine what the newsroom must have been like today. I did see a photograph of people cheering, but tell us what's gone through your mind today, the newsroom's mind, and I guess finally, right? Finally.
Thanks, Chris. Tears of relief, smiles of joy, huge gratitude, and we're incredibly excited and exhausted at the same time. And that's how we're feeling. So, can only imagine how Evan and his amazing family are doing as they wait to be reunited in a few hours.
Yeah, and I wonder what you see when you look at this picture. In any other situation, right, you would look at this picture and think this is a happy time, not coming out of the most horrific circumstances that you could possibly imagine. The pictures of Evan heading toward that second plane in Ankara, Turkey, and getting on that plane. How does he look to you? Have you had conversations with members of his family today?
Very brief communication with them and his family, and they're just on the moon. You saw them next to President Biden when the president spoke, and it's just such a joyous moment for them, for Evan, and 15 other families that will be reunited today. I think it's a historic swap, but for each of those families, it's just the most important moment.
Let me ask you a question about journalism, because what Paul was doing, to say that it was extraordinary under always dangerous situations. There are plenty of reporters and good reporters, but for reasons of danger, they're not reporting on Russia from inside Russia. They're reporting some cases from places like Germany, right? Other countries. Or they go in very limited circumstances under very tightly controlled conditions. We all know, as journalists, you can't tell the full story doing it that way. Paul did it that way. Tell us about him. I'm sorry, Evan did it that way. Evan Gershkovich did it that way. And Evan, and he did it brilliantly. I mean, anybody who follows his reporting knows what a great reporter he was. So what does this mean, do you think, for journalism and the conversation that we were having, which is somehow there has to be an ongoing effort to see that this does not become an extraordinarily dangerous and fraught enterprise to go into a country and tell the truth?
So just to remind people, 60 months ago, Evan was pulled out of the steakhouse in Yekaterinburg, about 1,000 miles from Moscow, because he was out there reporting for us and only us. Everything that you've read about the charges against him and the conviction and the sentencing, all false, all concocted. And when you see as a journalist, in Evan's case and also in Alsu's case, of course, that came out today as well, you have a knock-on effect for the rest of the press. We need to be there to cover the story. And when something like this happens, a lot of people understandably say it's not safe to be here, which it isn't. And so they decamped to Berlin and Tbilisi and Dubai and London and other places. So Putin achieved two things by doing this. He had a pawn to trade with the U.S. in his insidious global chess game. And he put a chill on what was left of the independent and foreign media in Russia. So really the last 60 months has been trying to square up that equation. And obviously no one is happy to see convicted, serious bad actors go back to Russia. But more important to us is that the travesty of justice that this represented is now over, thanks to the efforts of the U.S. and other allied governments. And not every country in the world does stick up for its citizens in that way.
I have followed very closely all of the stories that have been written about Evan, and I just have to applaud the Wall Street Journal. You could go in any day and click on a link at the top right underneath the banner that says Wall Street Journal. And even if there wasn't a big story that day, you could read so much about Evan. And one of the things that I loved was that many of his colleagues, because he loved food, were often cooking, and they were getting together and they were having meals together to celebrate who he was to them and who he is as a human being, the complexity of any good reporter, right? So and I apologize for a little bit of the cheesiness of the question, no pun intended, but if you could sit down and have a meal with him right now, what would you say to Evan, and what do you imagine the two of you would be having to eat?
First thing I'd say to him is, it's nice to meet you. And then we would have his signature burger, I think, which is burger, grilled onions, fried egg, chili mayo. And then I would hope we would have several large scotches, because I look forward to having that with him when we finally get together. So, as you said, he is an extraordinary reporter, but we have learned so much about him as a human being and what an extraordinary human being he is. And the Journal has tried hard to keep his case in the spotlight. Two other factors have been vital to that. One is Evan himself. All the composure he showed in his glass cages, Evan and his family. His family have been incredible advocates for him the whole way. So they've been our guiding lights, really. We just tried to be the employer you'd want if you were in a situation like he was. And then the second is the wellspring of support we got from other media, yourselves included. Extremely grateful to MSNBC and all of its viewers for all their support over the last 16 months. There was a wellspring of support for him. And that, when his voice was silenced, was so vital that I think it played a very big role in everything that you see today.
We were lesser for it as journalists, and I know that those who knew him have much to celebrate today. Paul Beckett, thank you so much. We do appreciate you coming on the program again and sharing on this happy day, finally.